Welcome to Tell Me More. This week we are talking about Epiphany, and the gospel is Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And it's the story of the Magi, these wise people who come from afar off. Afar off is afar is the hymn says, we three kings. And we don't really know much about these magi. It's kind of a little bit of a urban legend. We've named them kings, and we kind of portray them as kings because of a psalm where it talks about these kingly visitors bringing gifts. And they only name two of the gifts, gold and frankincense. They don't name the myrrh that was given. And there's just a lot of speculation around these magi. And I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to demystify it for you today. I can tell you some facts, some things that we know. We know that they followed a guide of some sort. We don't know whether that was a comet. An aligning, some people have suggested it was a aligning of Venus and Mars. Some people have speculated that it was a supernova that happened that created a very bright light in the sky, and they followed that. I have recently heard one that makes the most sense to me, which is that God sent a very bright angel to guide them. And why that makes sense to me is because in the Exodus story, during the desert wanderings, we see God directing the Israelites with a pillar of smoke during the day and a pillar of fire at night, guiding them through the desert. And why not an angel, a messenger of God? He sent an angel to speak to the shepherds out in the fields, tending their flocks, told them, come and see this Christ that has been, this child that has been born. So I'm not really sure that it matters so much to the story as it does for our curiosity. Our curiosity really gets to us. The indication that they came from the east tells us a lot about the geography and where they might have come from. Some people have speculated they'd come from the area of Babylon, which would have been modern day Iraq. Some have said they have come from Syria, or they were Syrian, which would have been, in that time, would have been Iraq. No matter what, it would have been a long journey, and it would have been something that they would have had to have been very dedicated to the journey, because it wouldn't have been an easy one. And if they were carrying gold, frankincense, and myrrh, which all three of those would have been very valuable items, it's very likely that they were traveling with a bit of a crowd, with the soldiers, or at least somebody to help guard those things. And so the things that we speculate, not from the text, but that we speculate that has some validity, is there would have been a party that would have been traveling, not just three men on a camel, and not necessarily three. We get the three from the three gifts. Not necessarily does that make these three gifts make three wise men or magi. Magi, by the way, is a word that we see used in Acts, and it's Greek for magician. That at that time, if you were following the stars, that would have been seen as magic, and so you would have been a magician or a magi, plural in that, magi, to have followed these stars, astrologers. There's a faith based around that, and I'm sorry I can't pull that up right now, but you can look it up. There's also the stigma around the three gifts: the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh. The gold we have lifted up as a kingly gift. The frankincense as a priestly gift, because that's what the priest used for to make the smoke of the incense burning in the temple. And quite frankly, That's what we use today in our thurible in our service on Epiphany was frankincense. And then the last is myrrh, and myrrh is what they used to embalm the bodies, or they would cover the bodies to kind of mask the stench from the decomposition of the body, and they would use it in large quantities. And it's been speculated that even though they offered gold, frankincense, and myrrh, it wouldn't have been in large quantities that they offered it. They would have offered smaller quantities of gold, smaller quantities of frankincense, and smaller quantities of myrrh. These are all three extremely valuable gifts when Jesus was there, and it also really tells to the area that the Magi may have come from, because gold, although it was used as currency, wasn't used as currency in all locations because it was a precious metal. Frankincense would have probably indicated that they would have come from an area that was on a trading route, and myrrh definitely, because it would have come from a trading route. I do want to say one other instance about the Magi in this story. When we see pictures, early depictions of the Magi, and I'm referring now to a tomb where one of the earliest depictions of the three wise men, the Magi, are painted. In that depiction, which is on a tomb in a catacombs of Priscilla, which is a very early rendering, one of the people are white. Very white, like an Anglo white, indicating European descent. One of them is almost has an Asian look to them, so like it would be somebody from China or Japan or some Asian country or continent. And then the third is black, like an Ethiopian, like an African Ethiopian. I say Ethiopia because that's one of the first places that Christianity really took root and thrived, was in Ethiopia and North Africa. And so we see a lot about these Magi, and there's a lot of information that we have grown up hearing in hymnody and in our teachings. But the truth is, the mystery of the Magi is demystified in the fact that God reached out not only to the Jews through the birth of Jesus in this little town of Bethlehem, but that message spread across all of God's creation, and the response was from these three Magi. And I really think for us, it doesn't matter so much where they were from, where they hailed from, if they were all from the same area or were they from different areas, what the gifts were or what they meant. If it's just symbolic for us that that the birth of God made flesh, incarnate, Jesus incarnate, reached to every part of the world in a way that God only can explain to us when we stand in front of him on that final day and we get to ask the question, tell me about those Magi, or can you introduce me to those Magi, might be a better question. So I'll leave you with a little bit of mystery and intrigue. Maybe it will spark you to go back and read Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12 again, and really parse that out. If you've got a good study Bible, it's going to take you to other places. It's going to take you to the Psalms. It's going to take you to Acts so you can understand more about the word Magi and how it was used. And it's going to take you to some places in the Bible maybe that you hadn't thought about exploring. So I commend to grab a good study Bible and dig into that scripture a little further. And then let's have a conversation. Email me at mhurst@redeemersarasota.org, or give me a call in the office, or I take lunch every day. Come by and I'll go and have lunch with you. We can talk about it. All right. Until then, God bless.